mean, the outcome is going to be very easy and convenient. And these are 9 steps, as I told you. Nothing rigidly, nothing I like stipulated only 9 steps, but I have highlighted 9 steps. Step number 1, as I was telling, highlighting, define the research problem. Step number 2 is known as a review of literature. Step number 3 is known as you have to formulate a hypothesis. Step number 4 is known as research design. Step number 5 is known as sampling. Step number 6 is known as data collection. Step number 7 might be, it's known as data analysis. And 8 and 9 is known as interpretation and report writing. These are 9 steps, as I told you, not like 9 steps. You can find 7 steps also, but I am just highlighting in my presentation. I follow normally 9 steps, as I know, as you can see my screen. The step number 1 is very important. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, sir. Quite audible. Quite. Yeah.
Very good. If any of you have any problem, you can ask me. I don't mind. Class has to be dialogue, not a monologue. I'll keep on speaking. But anyway, last 10 minutes I'll be taking question answer. If you would like to ask, unmute yourself, but please ask me. I was highlighting step number 1, which is very important. You have to define the research problem. It is been said, if the research problem is nicely defined, then more than 60% of the research is done. And the step number 1, if nicely defined research problem, you are 50%. Even more than 50%. There are books they are writing. 60% of work is done. That's why I was telling step number 1. Sorry. Step number 1 is very important. Might be the PhD thesis, might be MPhil, or might be you are writing a research paper. This step number 1, you have to nicely understand, nicely define, nicely adapt, so as to know the following. Succeeding steps are going to be very easy for you. Let's understand what is step number 1. As I am telling in my screen, define a research problem. Even in the research problem, I am highlighting a couple of steps. Step number 1, it's known as outline the area of interest. Then you can choose the topic. Then third one, you can go for narrow down your subject. And fourth one is known as identify the research problem. And fifth one is known as choose the purpose of the study. These are the 5 points I am highlighting just to explain what is research problem. I'll just give one example. Point number 1, outline of the area of interest. For example, my area of interest is economics. or some of you tell my area of interest is, for example, management. In management, you may tell area of interest is, for example, financial management, marketing management, human resource management. You may tell I am from political science, history. This is what I am talking, the broad area. Then in that broad area, you choose a topic. I'll tell, for example, smoking and cancer. This is my my topic. I am little confused. My topic is like cigarette and smoking and breast cancer or cancer. This is what I have to narrow down. Then this is what is my topic. I want to understand. I want to do research on smoking and cancer. Then third step, what I supposed to do? how smoking? How if women, if ladies are smoking, and how it is leading to the breast cancer. This would be my narrow down subject. What I am telling, you start from the broad area, narrow down to the topic. In this process, then you can identify the problem. Why you want to conduct the breast cancer suffered by the ladies, those who are smoking. This is what you have to identify the problem. In this process, I have highlighted right hand side how to choose a topic, how to select a topic. People are coming, students are coming before the 5 months, 6 months, 2 years workshop. They are confused. They don't know how to decide what put the topic. They know the broad area of interest. They know they are from economics, but they cannot pinpoint which subject they would like to carry. That's why in the right hand side I'm highlighting. Uh, First ask the question. My teacher told me it is just like tom gadi. I mean, if some gadi is going, they are like a tom tom. I mean, in Maharashtra, gadi. I mean, tom tom means the auto ringing the bell and going in the street. Putting into very simple words. I mean, you should keep on asking. But for example, you should ask somebody what they are doing. If some expert is there, for example, you should keep on. For example, there are four, 5 people are together. They ask, I want to do research on economics. I am little confused to do choose the topic. Can somebody guide me? Ask the question. Talk to your colleagues. Talk to the experts. Read newspapers. Read papers. Talk to your guide. This is the way, and speak. If you get the chance, please speak. Talking, discussing, studying, doing a literature review, you will get the idea which topic you should carry. I'll just take you to the next slide and you will get to understand. As I told you, if problem is nicely defined, half problem is solved. Step number 1, day 1, maybe within 2-3 months, your problem is defined. You have to do PhD for according to UGC, not before 3 years. I mean the 3 years of work is been defined in only 2 months. If you are nicely defining the research problem. Research problem is nicely defined means 50% work is over. That's why we are highlighting, please understand the research problem. As I told you, there are different steps you should follow while selecting the research problem, and you should understand the research problem. You start from the general area. Yeah, as I told you, you are economics. You are economics, and you start from broad area of economics. Then you can come to narrow down the subject, and you can come to a particular subject wherein you can do what you want to do research. Why the step number 1? From general topic to researchable statement that you have to do. Meaning broad area has to be nicely narrowed down, coming to a pinpointed. Then you understood this is going to be my subject, and that has to be very specific. Then if you want, then rephrase it. Talk to, as I told you, how to understand actually, as I told you, talk to your guide. Definitely you have to talk to your guide because he has experience, he has many problems in the mind. Guides are specialized people, they are experts. Talk to them, they do have different ideas, different statements in the mind. They'll guide you. If initially guides may not help you because if you don't have some idea, talk to your colleagues. Ask them what I have interest in this area, what to do. Talk to your colleagues, and you talk to the people, those are the experts. They might not be the guide, they might not be your colleagues. There are people in the society, they are having experts in that particular area. Talk to them and go to the literature survey. You go to the literature survey, you will get some idea what could be the different types of literature. And literature may be 2 types. As I told you, talk to guide, talk to colleagues, talk to the people, those who are having experts, and go for literature review. In literature review, there are 2 types of literature review. One is known as a conceptual literature, related to theory, concept. There is a empirical literature. For example, you have selected the title, how smoking, a study on the impact of smoking on the breast and cancer of the women. I mean, this is the topic. And previous researchers have conducted research on the same area. That is what is known as empirical study. So you study two types of literature. One is conceptual literature. Second one is known as empirical literature. These two, along with guide, colleague, and expert people, they will guide you. They will guide you which kind of research problem, research topic you have to conduct. If this is very nicely defined, then I'll guarantee you the research paper is going to be very good. I'll guarantee you the project you are conducting, that is going to be very good. I'll guarantee you the PhD thesis you are writing, that is going to be excellent. Depends how nicely you understood the problem, how nicely you have defined the problem, and in the process you may take help of, there are different people as I told you, and there are different literature. There are different literature to the specific area of interest. The area you have selected, regarding that area, there are papers defined. If you go to particular area, you will find couple of papers, 2 papers, 3 papers, 4 papers. They are like benchmark. You should study some benchmarking papers to get more idea, so that that paper will guide you which kind of research problem you have to carry out. And if as I was highlighting, if nicely you understood the research problem, the research process, I mean the whole process of 3 years, 2 years is going to be very easy for you. And it is very, very important actually, the research problem, as I was telling. If nicely defined research problem, you select the problem that is very convenient for you. Don't take up the subject that you cannot conduct, because the title looks very nice, the subject looks very nice and been appreciated by somebody. Don't take. People will guide you, people will tell you, but you understand your potential ability, of course in alignment with the guide. You just understand what are the strengths. Don't take the subject that you cannot finish in 10 years. Topic looks very nice, somebody told this is very nice subject, you are carried by somebody, and you have selected the title, I'm in the topic that you are not going to conclude. Don't go to that level of topics. Doable subjects, doable topics you have to take, so that you know what are the abilities, your guide knows what are the abilities you have. Sit together, guide and student, then you decide which kind of this is what is statement of problem I'm telling. In economics, you tell defined statement of problem is defined. How much time you have, how much money you have, how much energy you have. Everything has to be defined. You have taken the subject that requires 10 years. You have conducted. You want to conduct research taking the big data like 90,000 sample size. If it is not possible, 90,000 sample size working on the big data, it looks very nice. But is it convenient? Is it appropriate? Do you have time? Do you have money? Do you have energy? That has to be defined in the step 1 itself. I'll guarantee you, those who have defined step 1 very nicely, you are going to a very nice journey for 3 years. Students are taking the subject. After 3 years, they want to know, I don't want to go for the subject. I don't get the data. If you don't get the data, then why you have selected the title? If you don't have the literature, then why you have chosen the topic? Everything has to be decided in the step number 1, that is known as a research problem. If nicely decided research problem is going to be if you have decided nicely the step number 1, I'll guarantee you 3 years you are going to enjoy. Otherwise, there's a fight between student and guide. There's a fight between colleagues and you are always in the tension because you cannot do anything. That's why my suggestion to everybody, those who are doing PhD, define the problem very nicely. Put much time on the step number 1. I normally take 6 months to my students. you come up with a very nice idea, but would be the statement of problem, what you are going to do. If my students are not convinced, then I normally don't sign. I insist my students at least work 6 months to define the research problem. This is what is my point. Before I proceed to step number 2, I just wanted students, is it okay to everybody? I suppose you must have understood what I want to highlight. I just wanted responses from 1 to students, then I'll proceed. I just wanted responses from 1 to students. Hello? Anybody?
Yes, sir. It's good. We are able to understand.
Okay. Step number 2 is known as literature review. Anybody can comment something from my screen, which is on the screen now. Step number 2, literature review. Can somebody would like to speak something on this by looking at my picture?
Identify the gaps in the review.
Gap. Yes. There is a gap where the research literature review. So once we do, we find out a gap. This has not been studied.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. I mean, these are the puzzles. You see left side picture, it shows puzzles. I mean, this is the gap you are telling. Okay, you are 100% correct. I mean, the literature review. I mean, it's very very important. It means you have to. You have to understand the puzzles, putting them into the particular order, so that it makes sense. You see, these are like randomly put here and there. It doesn't make any sense. If I'm putting into a particular pattern, then you can find 2 things. One is if after putting everything, you find a gap. Meaning, if you study, 10, 50, 20, 30, 40, according to the guide suggestion of your guide, after studying 50 literature, you will find a gap. 50 literature has to be put in the particular order. Definitely, there are people, research person, they are going to talk on literature review. But what point I would like to highlight, you have to study, for example, 50 research papers, put it in a particular order. After studying 50 papers, then you can find the gap. I mean, this is what I am telling. If you put everything together, then clearly you can find the missing. Missing area. See, you can see in my right hand side picture. After putting only, you can find the gap. The gap. And that's why I'm telling you, study the literature, then you will find the literature gap. Second one, the very very important. Then you do research to fill the gap. The 2 broad objective I would like to highlight. Number 1, you have to find the gap. Number 2, you have to fill the gap. Only finding the gap is not enough. You have to fill the gap. And filling the gap, that is what you are going to contribute to the body of knowledge. How you are contributing by filling the gap is known as, body of knowledge. For example, you studied a particular subject that has been studied by hundreds of people. Then no point in talking the same point the people are telling. That's why I'm telling you, study 100 literature, you highlight this is not been studied, or you did not find, and you mean you tell that this is what is the area, the missing area, and I would like to contribute the missing area. That contribution is going to be the body of knowledge. So finding the missing pieces, missing knowledge, filling the gap. By filling the gap means you have to add to the body of knowledge. How you are going to add to the body of knowledge, I will tell in the last part of my presentation. You see, what students are doing, they are just getting the literature from the books, journals, magazines, and they are just writing what is been written in that particular paper. Actually, just collecting them, putting into just changing, paraphrasing, you are putting in your thesis. That is not going to be the proper, literature review. Literature review has again, if you see my screen, it is again 5 steps. It starts from the topic. You have to conduct literature review related to that topic, and then once topic is decided, go for the literature review. Then you get into argument. This is a very important part in the literature review. Get into argument. Then after getting argument, then you can go for literature survey. Then critical literature. Then you write the review. See, before you are writing a review, there are 5 steps you have to follow. I'll put into very simple words. Even if you don't understand this, what are the 5 steps? Study very nicely what the author is speaking, and put some argument on this. Don't just write down what has been told, what has been said. You put some argument and study very nicely, and that after studying, critically studying the literature, write your review. What that particular author wants to speak. I'll tell the after this, I'll tell you what are the purpose of this literature review. You told finding the gap. Number 1, finding the gap is one of the objective. Then developing to body of knowledge, adding to body of knowledge, the second objective. Third one, if you study the literature related to the particular area, the subject, then you will understand how the particular author has collected data. See, my teacher told me if you in the PhD, 80% is literature review, 20% is data analysis and methodology. I'll highlight. I'll just repeat. My teacher told me the process of writing thesis, 80% is known as literature review, 20% is known as data analysis and methodology. You see the importance of literature review. Any student is coming to me, I am not able to get the statement of the problem. I don't understand statement of the problem. I don't speak much. I just tell, go for literature review. Students are coming to me, they are asking me, sir, what kind, how to analyze the data? What tools and techniques I have to use? My answer is go for literature review. If you want to understand the design, research design, if you want to understand the methods, if you want to understand the techniques, if you want to understand the gap, if you want to add to the body of knowledge, if you want to understand the relationship, which kind of relationship is existing between different variables, answer is only one: literature review. Extensive, proper, systematic, critical literature will guide you. What could be the data analysis, how the sampling is going to be. The answer is known as literature review. That's why literature review is very important. Without proper literature review, I have seen people just writing like anything. Literature review, don't do like this. Proper systematic study is very important while conducting literature review. The best part I did not tell why literature review. That's why we normally tell literature review and grounding the hypothesis. This is what is very important. Literature review and grounding the hypothesis. What could be the hypothesis and how the hypothesis is going to be is being guided by literature review. That's why the title is been given: literature review and grounding the hypothesis. This is very important. There are so many things, as I told you. It has been again. If you want to understand a particular area, go for literature review. If you want to ground the hypothesis, go for literature review. If you want to develop the body of knowledge, go for literature review. If you want to fill the gap, go for literature review. If you want to understand the concept, the methods, the experiment techniques being used, go for literature review. And after understanding literature review very nicely, then you can plan your methodology. As I told you, the step number 1 is a statement of problem, followed by literature review. If both steps are nicely carried in the beginning stage, I'll guarantee you you are going to enjoy the next, I mean the 2, 3, 4, 5 years, how much time you are taking. That's why this step is very, very important. Even what to speak of PhD, even writing, I mean research paper, if you want to publish in the reputed journal, literature review is very, very important. Again, I am highlighting, it is 80% the success of the thesis, the success of the paper to be published, the success the proposal is going to be accepted, depends the quality of review. Normally, I study literature review. I go for references. I see what kind of references you have adapted. If it is like substandard, I don't recommend only. That's why which kind of literature you are studying, what are the references, decides the quality of the thesis. If it is okay to everybody, I'll go for the step number 3. Please unmute and please, any one of you, any one of you, any one of you, if it is okay, then I'll go for the next one.
Yes, sir, it is okay. Yes.
Very good. All those things I have told you. There are different sources of literature: primary source, secondary source. I don't think I'll spend much time on what are the different primary sources, what are the different secondary sources. There are different sources of literature that you used to go for. Step number 3 in my presentation is known as formulating hypothesis. As I told you, literature review followed by hypothesis. If you understood literature very nicely, 100% I will guarantee, I'll give you guarantee, you will nicely define the hypothesis. The bad part is the students, they submit the thesis, they don't understand what is hypothesis. And then finally they are roaming around, they are asking help for anybody and everybody. And I mean, they get in problem. The problem starts from I mean not understanding the literature review. That's why I'm telling. If you ask me anything, then I'll tell the only one answer, that is literature review. Literature review will help you to formulate your hypothesis. Literature review will guide you the how to define, how to formulate the hypothesis. I mean, of course, in the following, while you are formulating hypothesis, there are 2 types of hypothesis. In the last presentation, when I took, I have highlighted. I'll just highlight what are how to formulate and what are the examples of hypothesis. This hypothesis, formulating hypothesis itself, I take 3 hours class, 3-4 hours workshop. How to formulate hypothesis and how to test hypothesis is part of again 10 hours of at least 10 hours of class. But what I'll do, I'll just define what is hypothesis and how hypothesis is very, very important. And from hypothesis, sorry, I've been traveling since last 10 days extensively. That's why I got a little cold. Sorry. As I was highlighting, hypothesis is the starting point of research. My teacher told me when I was a student. I still give the same example. It's very, very important to understand. Starting point of your investigation is known as hypothesis. Anyway, hypothesis means after literature review, you define the hypothesis. Extensive literature review will guide you what is going to be our hypothesis, depends upon the particular area of interest. In the process of hypothesis formulating, there are 2 types of hypothesis. One is null, other one is known as alternative. I'll speak 5 minutes on this. As I told you, it's a very vast area. I'm not going to speak a lot on this. It's my favorite subject. I can speak like 1 day workshop on how to develop hypothesis. But I'll tell, the researcher starts from null hypothesis. Then alternative to null, that is known as alternative hypothesis. I'll just give one example. What is null hypothesis? Null hypothesis means, what is hypothesis? There are different definitions are related to what is hypothesis. Hypothesis is an assumption to the population, and it has to be verified and tested. Very simple definition. I don't give much complicated definition. My definition is very simple. I'm telling hypothesis means it's an assumption to what? Assumption to population, and it has to be verified. It has to be verified. So I am telling only three parameters known as a construct. One is it is an assumption. Number two, to the population. Number three, it has to be verified. And if these three if these three parameters construct, you understand while testing the hypothesis, then it is going to be very convenient to you in the later stage to explain to somebody. Meaning, it is an assumption. While you are doing research, you assume something. I'll just give one example. For example, the people of Odisha, I'll just give you two examples. For example, Hero, the mileage of Hero Honda is as good as the mileage of Hero is as good as the mileage of Honda. Putting into very simple words, there is no difference between the mileage of Hero and the mileage of Honda. I am just assuming this. This is known as my H0, H0 null hypothesis. I am assuming. I don't know what is going to be the outcome. I am just assuming the mileage. There is no difference between the Hero and Honda so far as mileage is concerned. This is my alternate. This is my null hypothesis. There is no difference. I mean, the mileage of Hero and the mileage of Honda both are equal so far the mileage is concerned. And contradicted to this, alternative to this is known as alternative hypothesis. If there are two alternatives, there are two alternative hypotheses. Anyway, alternative to this, there is an alternative hypothesis. I'll just put it. There is no difference. It's known as null. And there is a difference. It's known as alternative. The set of alternative to null is known as alternative hypothesis. I mean, what are the set of alternative? There might be two sets of alternatives. Number one, the mileage of Hero is more than the mileage of Honda, or vice versa. The mileage of Honda is more than the mileage of Hero. It's the two sets to my H0 null hypothesis. I suppose I am making more complex, or is it okay?
Okay, sir.
I'll put in very simple words. There is no, as I was highlighting the mileage of Hero and the mileage of Honda. The beginning, I'll assume in the null hypothesis, both are equal. There is no difference between Hero and Honda so far the mileage is concerned. And alternative is there is difference. There is difference between Hero and Honda so far the mileage is concerned. That is known as alternative hypothesis. Normally, the researcher wants to reject null. If you are rejecting null, alternatively, you are accepting alternative hypothesis. Meaning, after literature review, you have to formulate a hypothesis. You have to formulate a hypothesis, and both null and alternative. Then you have to test it. If you are accepting null, alternatively you are rejecting alternative. If you are rejecting null, you are accepting alternative hypothesis. I'll give one example. What is null hypothesis? I'll give another example. For example, the tube light, the Bajaj tube light producer is telling, the lifetime of my bulb tube light is known as, for example, 100 hours. Bajaj is claiming Bajaj is claiming the lifetime of the tube light is 100 hours. The 100 is known as population mean. 100 is known as population mean. Being I am the researcher, I would like to understand the producer is claiming 100 hours, that is population mean, that is known as mu, is 100. Is it correct? Is it the claim is valid or not valid? Then the researcher would like to conduct research. Then what you do, you collect a sample of, for example, you collect the sample of 50, you take 50 lights, you do experiment, and there is one mean. The mean of those 50 lights, the mean of those 50 lights, how many hours they are actually burning, going. That mean of that 50 is known as my sample mean. I am just telling what the producer is claiming, that is known as 100 hours is known as my population mean. And what you do, you conduct research on 50 lights. Those 50 lights is known as sample size 50, and there is one mean of those 50 is known as sample mean. In my null hypothesis, what I assume, mu is equal to mu h0 is 100. Mean the population mean is equal to sample mean. If population mean is equal to sample mean, that is known as null hypothesis. If population mean not is equal to sample mean, that is known as alternate hypothesis. As I told you, it has to be verified. If after testing it, if you are accepting null, then automatically you are rejecting it. If in the process of testing, if you are rejecting null, you are